Let's try it, shall we? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Kevin Gregg Show. I'm glad to have you here. This is a show. I'm going to read this as I get this into my noggin. Show to help listeners so they reflect, rebuild, reinvigorate, reinvent their lives. We talk about a number of topics, including Christianity, business, history, art. The show's designed to help you strive towards that which God has designed you for. I am your host, Kevin Gregg. Good morning. I hope that you are well. A couple of things that are on my mind and on my heart that I would love to share with you this morning. Number one, going over the voice and the concept for the show. My intent with this is to not be just another talking head commentator that's just making all of these. Hey, I noticed this in the world and I noticed that in the world. Okay, so what? I think that one of the things I really wanted to do with this show is to make sure that it's of service to those people that are listening. The filter that I had for this show, I got some of these ideas from Michael Hyatt about Michael Hyatt. Look him up online. He's fantastic with reaching out on online platforms and how to connect with your audience through the internet. He's pretty cool. One of the things he talked about when you're starting like a blog or anything like this, what's the voice that you're speaking in? And I'm a big Lord of the Rings nerd. And one of the voices that he describes is sometimes you can, do a show or do a blog and do it in the voice of somebody that's just starting out on a journey, and they're trying to figure it out as they go. He always describes that as Frodo in Lord of the Rings, where Frodo is this hobbit that's living in a very peaceful country, and then all of a sudden he gets handed this monumental task of having to take this ring with this evil power that could end the world, and he's now got to destroy it. And so he's not a hero. He's a smaller hobbit creature. And he's like, I'm not sure what to do on this. That's the voice that I'm using with this show. Because I'm sort of I'm in this new phase of life, and there's stuff that I'm trying to figure out that I haven't done before. And my hope is that as I am going through this stuff and sharing experiences, and eventually, as people are tuning into the show, we'll get to have conversations with each other, which I'm looking forward to as well. I'm going to see if anybody happens to be here right now. I'm always going to check to see if there's a chat. I'm going to get this down eventually. My hope is that as I listen, I'm juggling several different things at the same time, right? Which is trying to figure out the technicality parts of it. There'll be an evolution in this process, but my hope is also as you guys come in, we'll be able to get to a point where we're able to have back and forths in the chats. So there you go. Thanks for watching. A couple of things I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to share something with you right now. I'm actually going to share a quote that I got from, there's a guy that's online. I'm probably going to destroy his name. His name is Naval Ravikant. And I wanted to share this with you because this has a lot to do with my mindset and a lot to do with this show right now. So let me see if I can share this with you. Double check, make sure it's coming up, because this has a lot to do with if you might be moving forward in your life, whether it's with your business or with your relationship or with whatever you're doing. Let me just double check that that's coming up on the YouTube stream for you guys. I think that you're going to see it right here. There it is. Yes, no, maybe not. It might not be showing up for you guys. Interesting. Oh, there it is right now. Perfect. Okay. Yes, this is from Naval Ravikant. And very, very simple thing that he wrote down on Twitter, which I copied and I put into my personal writing. I've sort of adapted it a little bit, but it is the following: fast, lift, sprint, stretch, and pray, build, sell, write, create, invest, and own, read, reflect, love, seek truth, and ignore society. Make these habits, say no to everything else. Avoid debt, jail, addiction, disgrace, shortcuts, and media. Relax. Victory is assured. I think that's super powerful. Um, and of course, I say avoid media while you're watching this on media. Um, why do I bring this up? I bring this up specifically because there's a lot of noise that happens in our day to day lives. And I know this personally for myself. I just had a moment yesterday where I got, I went down a rabbit hole with a few news stories. And I just had this moment where I had to pull myself out and go, what are you doing? You are literally, you're not focusing on the things that you need to do. It reminded me of a situation that happened with me. I won't go into major details on this. Um, some people that watch this know that I have worked with a major media company over the years, multi-billion uh, dollar media company. Several years ago, I was working on a project where I was helping to develop and to do some directing stuff. And as I was getting towards the end of it, there was a lot of work that had to get done. And so I was pulling like a lot of days. And usually when I'm working with this company, it's, you're a contractor. So basically what you're doing is, even though you're doing stuff on sort of an hourly basis, you are submitting those, you're putting those in as invoices. I ran into a few weeks with this project where, yeah, it was 16, 18-hour days, like no doubt, 16 to 18-hour days. And that was happening pretty much towards the end, about a good 2.5 weeks. I remember having this moment where I had submitted my invoices for some work that I had done. And I had let's say a supervising manager that was on this that got back to me and said, "Oh, we're not going to approve that work. We can't pay you for that work." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And the person got very specific on the details of the contract. It was saying, "Well, technically, you've got this day rate, and this is what's going on." And like I was shell shocked, right? It was like one of those things of going, "Oh, I see. You've kind of worked within the you've really stretched the parameters of what this means." And it was a reminder for me to go, great, you need to make sure that you cross your t's and dot your i's so that you have language that's in there that protects you in the future. um, but I had this moment. This was the revelatory, sure, why not, the moment where there was a little bit of revelation that happened for myself, where I realized, like, oh, I have to understand value for myself. I do this as a long way of saying, from that point on, I thought, okay, I took all of that time, and believe me, I lost some I lost some money that week, right? It was an exchange of time and money. And I had this number that I put up for myself, which was whether or not I'm getting paid is what I'm is what I'm working on the equivalent of $213 an hour. $213 an hour. Now you might listen to that and go, holy smokes, that's amazing, right? That's like upper professional levels where you go, wow, that's like doctors and lawyers and all that stuff. But it's it has to be that intent, that value that you're bringing to something. Whether you're getting paid for it or not is what you are focusing on and spending your time on. And for me, I have to use that as a uh, like a boundary, like a measuring rod for myself. Is what I am doing worth $213? I know some people might be listening and just going, oh my gosh, that's so petty. Why are you saying that? But for me, I don't know. It sort of clicks for myself. So, with that said, and going back to the Naval Ravikant quote that I just showed you. It's when we start drifting and focusing on other things that aren't, that aren't in line with what we're trying to do. I have to go back to that thing. Is this worth $213 that I'm spending the time on? You know, I have to catch myself with that, particularly with news, particularly with news. Um, I won't get into all of this. Maybe I'll cover this in a future show. But the fact is, there is so much time and energy that is spent on things that are immediately out of my control. And sometimes there are media corporations or corporate news that's out there that their only intention is to make sure, is he going to click through, or is he going to spend time listening to that story? Because the longer that he spends time on this, then that's showing to advertisers that have got eyeballs on stuff, and then that translates into a bunch of dollars for us. When I do that on things that don't deal with the bigger picture for myself, I might as well be throwing away $213 an hour, right? So I need to think about that. Is the thing that I'm working on, and this can also be like relationships, is the time that I'm spending with my wife or a friend. I had a couple of phone calls that came up for myself yesterday, calls that came up out of the blue, and I looked at them and I went, that's worth it. I need to reconnect with that person for a while, and took the time, took a half hour on one call, took an hour on another call, and just went, you know what? That's worth that time, that value in order to make that's an investment. That's a long-term investment. So I guess that's something that I just wanted to share with listeners today. Is what you are working on worth that $213 an hour? Are you spending time on those things that's moving the ball forward in your business, in your life, in your relationships, in your family, in your health, in your finances? Are you doing that? Or is it something where you're wasting time or procrastinating or doing something else? Um, I don't know. Just a thought, man. Just a thought. Take a little look at my notes here. Yeah. Anyway, I just had this other thought that I wrote down that I just wanted to share with you guys just briefly, just for a few minutes. Um, and again, part of the reason why I wanted to do this show, uh, I will more than likely, I've talked about this on other podcasts, so I'll probably revisit it at some point here. Um, but it's about the idea of taking advantage of the here and now of where you're at, and not getting caught in a trap of being worried about the future or having regret about the past. It's like literally, what are you doing in this moment? Um, and and again, one of the reasons that I wanted to do this show is I'm 48. I'm approaching 50, and there's something that I experienced in my life, that was a very odd uh, thing. Maybe some of you that are listening experienced this. I remember being 18, 19, 20, going through my early 20s, as I was going into the entertainment industry. Uh, I'd have a couple of strange things that would happen. Entertainment industry is a weird beast, right? Because sometimes if you're getting into acting or something at an older age, people just go, "Oh my gosh, you're getting into this too old." But then I also had a weird thing that would happen business wise with other things I was working on, where you'd keep getting a lot of people saying, "Ah, you're young. Ah, you're young. Uh, don't worry, stuff will happen," or relax, or anything that I would try to bring to the table, whether it was writing or producing stuff, I would usually get, sometimes with some opportunities, I would get that uh, dismissive, you're young, you don't know, you don't have that experience. And I can understand that to an extent. I really can. And then suddenly overnight, and I will say this probably either started happening it started happening like in my late 20s or early 30s. And it definitely started happening in my late 30s. All of a sudden, I started getting people like saying, "Oh, you're too old. It's too late. You missed that opportunity. If only you had," and it's this weird, what are you talking about? first I was too young and I didn't have any of the experience. And then like overnight, it's like, you're too old. You've missed your experience. And I think that there's a couple of things that came into mind with this is um, don't wait for permission for anybody. Stop waiting for permission for somebody to come along and to just say, oh, okay, now you can do it. I think that I've spent a lot of my day, particularly the earlier part of my life, waiting for somebody to come along and go, great, you've done all this work, and now we're going to allow stuff to happen for you. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. I've had so many things that have, I don't know, just come and gone. And I've just realized like no one is coming to save me. Like there's no all of a sudden like white knight or hero or somebody's going to bust in the door and go, I got you, Kevin. We got you. We've got you. We've seen all the stuff that you've been doing behind closed doors. Let's go. Let's go. That's just not happening. I think that there is something that has to happen with whatever you're striving for, whether it's a art product or whether it's a business thing or just getting out there. Um, you have to take a risk, and there are going to be people that are going to make fun of you. There are going to be naysayers as you do it, um, and that's okay. It sucks when you're in the middle of it. Um, Boy, I just had this flash with something that happened with me just years ago, where it was like, you have these moments where, yeah, I get it. Like when you're in dressing rooms and stuff, like, and this is a guy culture thing, you know, there's a natural tendency that happens with men where there's a lot of like, hey, pounding around and goofing around. Um, and I have been in those experiences before, but boy, it's really challenging when you're in those circumstances and there's a shark in the midst. I've had a couple of those sharks that have popped up in my life where all of a sudden you're trying to strive towards something and there's a little bit of joking around, but then there's some cutting, biting criticism that happens or stuff that comes in just like, oh, I'm just joking. And you just go, wow, that really doesn't feel like it. Uh, yeah, I won't get into detail on this one. Uh, but there was just something that popped in my mind where there was stuff that I was doing earlier in my career and really putting myself out there and putting stuff on tape. And yeah, I walked in on a situation where people were kind of making fun of the stuff that I was doing. And, I get it. It was a joke, but boy, it was like, that's a little bit more than just a joke. That's a little bit of a poignant stuff. But anyway, that's going to happen along the way. That there's going to be people as you are striving towards stuff. They're going to poke fun at you. You know, there's going to be trolls. There's going to be trolls that pop up on this stuff. To just make these comments that you just go, "What are you doing?" Uh, I think I'll just leave it this last thought before I jump off for today. Not only just using that $213 an hour valuation of what you're doing, but also thinking like, what is it that I am doing that is going to have an effect or a change 10, 15, 50, 100 years from now or 500 years from now? I got that from Ray Edwards. He's a copywriter guy, but that was such a poignant thing for me. I think we get so focused on the here and now and what's going on the here and now, and we want to be in this. I want everything comfortable, or I want all of my money, or I don't want to. It's going to be so great for me when I retire and then I don't have to do any work. That idea of, I can't wait till I retire so I don't have to work anymore. That's, I'm sorry, man, but that is just a nonsensical idea. You know, we're not designed for that. Rick Warren covers it the best, where he literally says, hey, you know why you get to retirement? You get to retirement so that you don't have to worry about what you're doing for your daily work in order for money to come in. So now you can focus on doing God's mission in your life, right? Work doesn't stop. It's about like trying to find that stuff that you're going to do. As odd as it is, in the story of Genesis, guess what? Before the fall of man, uh, before the sin with Adam and Eve and with the serpent and eating from the tree of knowledge, uh, Adam's working in Genesis. He's actually in paradise in that story, and he is working. So part of God's design that he has for us is about working and doing the things that God has put in our heart. The curse of man that happens in the story of Genesis is that after the fall, after the decision, after the turning away from God, now it's about toil, sweat, pain that comes with your work. That's what happens in that story. You know, work is not a bad thing. When we're in that groove and doing that stuff and fulfilling that promise and fulfilling that thing that we've been designed to do, and we're in line with it, there's nothing better. You can find moments of having rest, refreshment, recreation, going on vacation, you know, having easy days. You can totally do that. But this idea of like, I think that that's probably the thing that we should be striving for. We should be striving for those things where there's a challenge with it, where there's difficulty with it, but we're also getting a sense of fulfillment that we're on the right track and creating something for the future, for future generations, and stuff that's in line with with what is God's purpose for our life. So anyway, I'll just leave it there. I had more stuff to say, but that's okay. We got a show that we can come back to. Thanks for joining me. There's more information that's coming up in the next few weeks. Um, yeah, just want to get these under my belt and showing up. Uh, the majority of these will be live when I do them. We are going to have some pre-recorded stuff that comes up, but I will drop it on this Monday, Wednesday, Friday window. But thanks. Go over to kevingregg.com for updates about what's going on. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Have a great day, and God bless you guys. We will see you later. Bye bye.